Hello, today I'm going to present you this short summary of how to make and write graph paragraphs. Graph paragraphs are very important when we are doing research because they summarize the results of our investigation, and usually our reports or our TFGs are full of them. The results could be explained by the use of visuals, but always they require a paragraph that describes them. As paragraphs, they have the basic structure or macrostructure, that we have seen in other paragraphs. They always start with the theme, that is like the topic sentence, that will be expanded into the reme and then closed by a thesis statement. So these are the three parts that we have to focus when we are writing this kind of paragraphs. How we're going to organize the content? Right. Let me change this camera there. Right. The contents, especially in the reme, could be very, very different. We can describe the trend, the general trend of the results. We can describe high or low points. This is a typical thing, right? Where we talk, for example, in a line paragraph of a peak, right? Or when the line plummets, right, down to a very low position. We can describe ratio and fractions, numbers, in a way. We can describe percentages. We can compare sets of data. We have obviously to introduce the theme of the paragraph. And we also talk about the projection, what are the expectations for the future, the trends for the future, or the reasons why this line has this kind of configuration or such a development as the one we see in the visuals. Right, so all of them, the things that the themes, right, that you have here in this slide are the different strategies that we can use for the argumentation and the narration and description of the contents of the graph paragraph. How we can organize them inside this macrostructure that we have previously seen. Remember that it had three parts: the theme, the topic, the reme, the expansion of the topic, and then disclosure, that's called the thesis statement. So in the next slide, we'll see that. We'll see that typically in the first line, the first sentence of the paragraph, what we're going to do is to introduce the theme, because that's the topic sentence. And the most usual is that this topic, apart from giving us the idea of what the paragraph is about, it describes in a general way the trend. Then this trend is explained by describing different numbers or percentages, by comparing the sets of data, by describing these low and high points, right, in the different parts of the graph, and describing the numbers, ratio, fraction, whatever it is that. So really the expansion of this topic is going into the detailing of the different numbers and the meaning they have. And at the end, we close that. And how do we close? We can get back to the trend. So in a way, what we do is summarizing what we have already said, or we go to a final and concluding point, talking about, for example, the projection, the future, what is where you expect this data to behave in the future. So that's another way of closing this paragraph, right? Summarizing or talking about the future. So once that we know exactly what are the different contents of the different sections in the paragraph, we can go and analyze a little bit the microstructure, that is to say, the language that we need in each of the different parts. So we go take a look to the language. That's the most typical thing we are going to find. What we're going to find is that at the beginning the topic sentence uses the past simple, because it refers to that analysis or research that we have performed, that it was done 2 or 3 weeks before the time when we write the report. So that's why we use the past simple. And maybe we are describing the trend and the trend has a link to the present, then we can maybe use the present perfect. Obviously, everything could be spiced up with the use of adverbs rather than highlight certain ideas that give a boost to certain important things, right? Or download the force of certain arguments. When we go to the expansion, there's the second part or the second section of our paragraph. Again, we use the past because what we are describing is the data we obtained on a specific day in the past. At the time we did our research and we conducted our research, and maybe it was a month ago, 2 months ago, or last year. So we are going to use past all the time. And there, remember that we said we were going to compare numbers and talk about numbers, talk about results, percentages, fractions. So we will need that kind of language. This vocabulary will be used there. And normally when we do this and we are comparing data, we are comparing high and low points, right? We need obviously to use comparisons and we need to use superlatives, right? And something that is hidden behind me, that is highlighting adverbs, because we are going to highlight the most important numbers or the most important data. Then finally we get to the last part of our paragraph. That could be the closing, the thesis statement. And then we go back to past again if we are going to summarize, some of the data and go in to highlight the final, the conclusive point of the paragraph. If we describe a trend, and then in this description of the trend we talk about the future, obviously the tense could change. And everything is going to be spiced up with using adverbs or adjectives that are going to help us to highlight, to boost certain ideas, or to modify or to add a hedging to certain of our concepts, right? So this is more or less so. With all this information, I think you can start working on your paragraphs. I recommend you to check all the handouts that I've uploaded on Moodle as well. Right? Thank you very much for listening.